The Brooklyn Nets experiment has finally come to an end. With Kyrie Irving now in Dallas and Kevin Durant on the Suns, this marks the official end to the Big Three era with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. With this Big Three now officially over, it's time to look back at the entire situation and what went wrong. To tell this story, let's first go back all the way to 2019. Durant and Irving were two of the biggest names on the free agent market, and the Nets didn't just get one, but they got both. This began a new era for Brooklyn, but it would take a bit to get going. Durant would end up missing the entire season after rupturing his Achilles in the 2019 NBA Finals. That came to no surprise, but what did was Kyrie missing a majority of the season with a shoulder injury. He only played 20 games that season, but in those 20 games he was elite, averaging 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 6.5 assists. Additionally, the Nets had to pay a big price just to put this duo together. And I'm not just talking about contracts. To acquire Durant from Golden State, Brooklyn had to make a sign-and trade that sent their all-star D'Angelo Russell to the Warriors. This move marked the beginning of the Nets dismantling their previous core in an effort to go all in. And as for the season itself, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good either. The Nets finished 35-37 and got swept in the first round by the Toronto Raptors. That didn't really matter though, as the contending window would truly open next season when both Kevin Durant and Kyrie came back. Besides Durant and Kyrie returning, another major change came in the form of coaching. Kenny Atkinson resigned shortly before the NBA suspended the season due to COVID, leaving Jacques Vaughn as the interim coach. And later, the Nets hired Hall of Fame point guard Steve Nash to be the new head coach. We all know how this went. Brooklyn had a sluggish start to the season with a 7-6 record through the middle of January. The Nets were looking for another star to put them over the top, and on January 14th, they found one. In a 14 blockbuster, the Nets acquired former MVP James Harden from the Houston Rockets. In retrospect, it's important to look at what Brooklyn gave up to make this deal work. The Nets traded 3 unprotected first-round picks in 2022, 2024, and 2026, and 4 pick swaps in 2021, 2023, 2025, and 2027 to Houston. They also traded Jared Allen to Cleveland and Caris LeVert to Indiana, 2 young pieces of the previous young core. And the Nets were great this season. They finished 48-24 and second in the Eastern Conference. They then made short work of the Boston Celtics, winning in 5 games. In the next round, Brooklyn matched up with Giannis and the Bucks. In this series, both Harden and Irving suffered injuries, causing both to miss time during it. The Bucks ended up winning Game 7 in overtime because, well, Kevin Durant's feet are too big. Milwaukee would go on to win the NBA title, but maybe it could have been Brooklyn if Kevin Durant's feet were just a little bit smaller. Brooklyn's roster underwent minimal changes during the offseason. The biggest loss was another piece of the former core in Spencer Dinwiddie, who went to Washington as part of the Russell Westbrook trade to the Lakers. Despite the lack of change, there was no shortage of drama to start the season. Due to New York's COVID mandates, Kyrie was ineligible to play as he was not vaccinated. Irving would not play until January when the Nets began using him as a part-time player for road games. At the end of March, New York relaxed its mandate and Irving could finally play in home games again. Kyrie only played in 29 games this season, largely due to this. As the season went on, Harden's name also constantly appeared in trade rumors. On February 10th, those rumors became reality as the Nets sent James Harden and Paul Millsap to the Philadelphia 76ers. In return, they received Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks in 2022 and 2027. Later on, Harden cited the lack of organizational structure as the reason why he wanted to leave Brooklyn. He also reportedly had a poor relationship with Kevin Durant, and Kyrie's fiasco this season certainly didn't help either. With Harden now gone, the Nets trio played a grand total of 16 games together. That's less than a full NFL season, and nowhere near enough time to build chemistry. One can only wonder how different the NBA might be today if this group stuck together for a bit longer. Brooklyn as a whole struggled this season, finishing 7th in the East with a 44-38 record. The Nets defeated the Cavaliers in the play-in game to officially make the playoffs, matching up against the Celtics once again. While Brooklyn dominated Boston the previous season, Boston returned the favor. The Celtics beat the Nets in a 4-game sweep, with all 4 games ending within 10 points. Durant and Irving didn't look like themselves. Irving received a fine for his altercation with Celtic fans, and Ben Simmons didn't even play at all. And even worse, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart, 3 players the Celtics acquired with the picks they got from Brooklyn in the infamous trade all those years ago, served as a reminder of what could have been. The postseason continued to get worse for Brooklyn as it went on. Boston made it all the way to the NBA Finals only to fall to Durant's former team in Golden State. Not only did the Warriors prove they can win a title without Durant, but they landed a key part of the team because of the deal that sent him to Brooklyn. The Warriors packaged D'Angelo Russell in a trade with Minnesota that landed them Andrew Wiggins, who played a key part in the 2022 championship. This time around, the Nets drama started just weeks after the season ended. Shortly after Kyrie picked up his player option to remain in Brooklyn for one more year, Durant requested a trade out. He eventually walked back on that request, but it set an ominous tone for the season to come. Sure enough, Brooklyn got out to a poor start with just a 2-5 record through October. On November 1st, the Nets fired Nash and later promoted Vaughn to head coach. Around the same time, the NBA suspended Kyrie after controversy surrounding his anti-Semitic remarks. For a team full of drama, this was likely the low point of the Durant-Irving era in Brooklyn. However, the Nets began to turn around soon after. Brooklyn had an amazing 16-1 stretch between late November and early January, and looking like they were realizing their potential. As always though, that peace did not last long. During a January 8 win over Miami, Durant suffered a knee injury that has kept him out ever since. The Nets have struggled without Durant, posting just a 5-9 record since his injury. As it turns out, this would accelerate the end of this era in Nets history. On February 4th, Brooklyn traded Kyrie and Markieff Morris to Dallas for Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a 2029 first-round pick, and 2 second-round picks. Then on February 2nd, Brooklyn traded Kevin Durant to Phoenix for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, 4 first-round picks, and a 2028 pick swap. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, the Big Three era in Brooklyn is over. The silver lining to the situation is that, unlike the Nets' last Big Three, they actually have pieces to rebuild this time. While they lost that Big Three for next to nothing, they were able to get a good amount of assets this time. Although much of the draft capital still belongs to the Rockets, they do have a good amount of future picks from other teams. However, the sky-high expectations and failure to meet them make this Big Three far more painful. Not to mention the seemingly never-ending drama both on the court and off of it. With how much the situation spiraled, it's reasonable to call this the worst Big Three failure in NBA history.